grew up in a family that was full of violence and drugs, and it was normal for me.
You don't love me and I don't love you unless we beat each other up.
Yeah. A life today that I never dreamed of. I knew when I was sitting in the park that I could do better than that and I could be better than that, but I had no idea that the life that I live today, it could be this.
Welcome to the Living Louder podcast. Today I have a really good friend and just an amazing person doing good work in Utah and throughout the country. Destiny Garcia is the executive director of Clean Slate Utah, and she also has a powerful story. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so both of us share that we are addicts in recovery, and we have a lot of mutual friends.
Yep.
So tell me, before we jump into Clean Slate, because Clean Slate's amazing, what it does for people, but also I want to know, because I know you have a powerful story. Everyone tells me, and I've seen little clips, but tell me where you grew up.
But we never really sat down and talked
so
about
we're doing it now.
So I grew up in Magna, Utah with a single mom. I mean, my mom worked really hard to take care of us. She was the mom that always had a job, but still struggled financially. And then I went to my dad's on the weekend. Okay. I grew up in a family that was full of violence and drugs, and it was normal for me. Yeah. So the way I was disciplined was through violence. There was drugs around all over at my dad's house. My dad was an abuser to his wife. My brother was an abuser at times. And so I grew up that way thinking it was normal. Drugs, violence, it was normal. If I got in an argument at school, I'd have to go fight because that was normal for me.
So did you get the talk when you were a kid? We don't let people mess around with us. We stand by each other. That kind of blows my mind. If somebody messes with you, you take them out.
That's exactly the talk. If they hit you, you hit them back. And I remember being younger and my brother had gotten into an argument at school. And I remember my mom walked him out and was like, no, you need to handle it. You need to handle it. Violence was just second nature for us. It's normal. It was everything in my life. And so fast forward, and that's how I raised my adult children, was with violence. And then I found myself in crappy relationships, violent relationships. And so,
well, if you grow up seeing that, it's kind of like you think, you don't love me and I don't love you unless we beat each other up.
Yeah, I really thought that's what love was. And I remember, now that I've healed those parts of me and gone through so much therapy, I think back and I'm like, I honestly thought if this man didn't get jealous or physical or yell at me or scream at me, then he must not care. Yeah. Because you have to get jealous over the people you care about. You show your love by being physically abusive to them. I thought that was it for I thought that was what love was until I was in my 30s going through treatment, It's what was normal for me. So I found myself in very abusive relationships. My addiction started, I started using weed and younger, alcohol, when you're younger and doing things like that, right? But my addiction started when my opiate addiction. I was in a really abusive relationship for about 7 or 8 years. And I would oftentimes go to the emergency room for legitimate injuries. Broken noses, fractured eye sockets, teeth through my lip. I have a dent on this. It might be on this side or this side. I have a dent on my head.
I see that.
From my eye being fractured at Christmas time. He punched me and I fell into the Christmas tree. So I was going to the emergency rooms for these legitimate injury, but I would be overly prescribed tons of pain pills, muscle relaxers, anxiety meds. And when I finally left that relationship, and I remember I left and my nose was broke, my eye was fractured, I was checking my kids out of school, my mom was with me, and I went to go move my stuff out of the house, finally after 7 or 8 years, only to take the things that would fit in my car and the door was locked. And this is vivid to me because this is my son was in junior high school, and he said, "Mom, I knew this was going to happen. I left my windows open. Oh. I always leave my window open." And my son is this amazing human being.
We need to have him come talk to when he's ready.
Oh, he's probably ready now. He said that's when my son's really religious. We didn't grow up religious, but he is very religious. He's a member of the church. And he said that's in his mission talk. He said that was when he started to believe in God because he prayed before then and something told him to keep the window open. And he kept the window open. So that's how we got in that day we went in and we filled up our car with whatever we can take and I left. Yeah. I left almost everything behind, but what I did take was my opiate addiction with me. Yeah. So I'm trying to restart my life, move in with my mom. I have this opiate addiction. I'm also smoking meth to try to stay awake from the opiates.
And an opiate addiction, for people that don't know, is not something that you can just quit. Like, it is so difficult. The physical pain. I mean, there's all the mental, you have all this trauma and everything else, but I am an opiate addict. I've been sober for 11 years, but it's so painful. It's like you hate yourself for using. You can't stop. You get so sick when you quit.
Yeah.
So.
And I wanted to rebuild this life. I'd left this horrible man after all these years, all these injuries, and I wanted to restart. And I moved into my mom's, and I enrolled in school for social work, youth services, and social work. And I started going to school, but I was addicted to meth and opiates, you know?
Right.
And so I'm smoking meth in the bathroom as I'm trying to stay awake for class. I start shoplifting
to cover the addiction.
And cover their Easter and try to get them Christmas stuff because I'm living with my mom. I don't have any money. I left all the money behind. I left the man, all the money, all the materialistic things behind.
And it's hard. I would think just even leaving an abusive relationship, it's almost like an addiction too, right?
Oh, it took me so long. It took me years and years, and it took me so long to leave.
So you finally leave. You still have the opiate addiction. You have the meth addiction. You think, I'll enroll in school. Everything will be okay.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do something different, right? Like, it didn't work. So I was like 1 month shy of graduating, one class short of graduating, and I end up in jail for shoplifting and drugs. And then I start cycling in and out of jail. I get booked in and released. I'm not somebody who has a lot of felony charges. All of my record is misdemeanor charges. So they're like retail theft, drug paraphernalia, but there was a lot of them. And so because of that, I was never offered like a drug treatment program, or anything like that because my charges didn't warrant that type of intervention, you know?
Gotcha.
So I don't graduate, go to jail. I start seeing another guy.
Yeah.
From the street,
because
of course.
The guys are just as much of an addiction as the drugs, those relationships, right?
Yeah, and this is where I met heroin. He was a heroin user. I was not. I was still just doing opiates, doing pills and meth. And then, of course, I'm in another abusive relationship, and I'm graduated to shooting up heroin and meth on a daily basis for every 2 hours for the next 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And it feels like it happened that quickly. Like I don't know where I got to the park where I'm like trying to shoot up every hour on the hour. Like I don't know. Sometimes I sit here and think about it like, how did you get there? Like what steps did you take to get there? And I just remember losing everything and being there, you know? When I started shooting up drugs and my mom found out, and I was really abusive to my kids at this time because for one, it's what I knew. I knew how to discipline them in an abusive way. I knew how to talk to them in an abusive way. I knew how to be a very abusive mom. It's how I was raised. It's what I've known. And so I remember my son had fell off my mom's porch and broke his wrist. And I did not wake up to go pick up my daughter from school that day because I was coming down and withdrawing. And I got so mad at my son for not waking me up to go pick up my daughter that I started hitting my son. And he's in a cast and just broke his wrist. And my mom had enough. My mom kicked me out, had me escorted out by the police, filed for custody, filed a protective order. And I don't want to say took my son away because I went with her and I signed the paperwork.
Yeah.
Like I knew that was what was best for my son was to be with my mom. I knew it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't fight it. And I'll put this piece in there because I'm going to talk about it in a minute. And he told me when we went to the bank to notarize all the letters to give him over to my mom. And he's like, well, once you can stay sober for a year, then we'll figure things out. But until you can stay sober for a year, like, you know, this is what's best. Knew it was best. And then my daughter's dad took her. And so at this point, I had lost everything. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go get high. I'm going to go get high and continue getting high and continue with abusive men. And that's what I did for 4.5, 5 years. Most of the time I was homeless because of the abusive guy. I didn't want to stay at his house at night. I was constantly running from him.
Right.
And that would just put me to the street. And then Operation Rio Grande came.
Talk a little bit about that.
So Operation Rio Grande was an operation here in downtown Salt Lake where the government wanted to clean up the open air market downtown. Mm-hmm. So downtown by the Rio Grande Street, by the shelters,
a lot of homeless,
hundreds of homeless people would be out there shooting up in broad daylight, using the restroom on the sidewalk. It was just a really horrible area. I never stood at the shelter or in the Rio Grande area because my brother used to volunteer handing out burritos to the homeless down there, and I never wanted to see him. Yeah. I stood adjacent to that on North Temple, which is just like 3 streets away.
Yeah, I'm a street up.
I'm like, I am not going to the shelter, okay? Right. I am not a Rio Grande person. I am a North Temple girl, you know?
It's funny how,
I know. In my head, I was like, I'm a little bit better, but whatever. I was shoplifting every single day to support my habit, so that cycled me in and out of jail for those 4.5, 5 years. So when I did get arrested on Operation Rio Grande, I was sleeping in a park. I had sold my shoes the night before for heroin, and the dealer never came back, or the girl never came back. So I was arrested with no shoes on my feet. And I remember when they ran my name, of course I didn't lie. I never lied to the police. As much as I was running and gunning and using drugs and selling drugs and stealing stuff, and every time I ran into the police, I never had a bad encounter with them. Like I never had a bad encounter.
You do not seem aggressive to me at all. Of course, I didn't see you in your day. I have had some confrontations with the police. Now, I pushed him off before. Yeah. I wasn't really in my right mind, but it happened.
I mean, I've had a confrontation with like the security guards at Walmart and JCPenney and those things. I was like running, trying to get away. But with the police, I never really had any problems with them, you know? And so because they were always kind to me in all of the encounters that I've had throughout my abuse, throughout the addiction, I just told them who I was. I didn't lie. And she laughed as she was running my name, and she's like, you have like 17 warrants. Like, what jail do you want to go to? And I'm like,
what jail do you want to go to?
I want to go to the one that has the better food. Take me to Davis County.
That is hilarious. Well, yeah, Davis is better than Weber. Like,
and if you have better food.
They do have better food.
And it was better than Salt Lake County jail.
Oh, for sure better than Salt Lake. So,
and I had got arrested with one of my friends, and she's like, no, take us to Salt Lake County jail. And I'm like, no. I want to go to Davis County. You can get a hot plate. You can get a soda once a week. Like, take me to that jail. Like, I had been to that jail before.
We're going to rate the county jails here now. Right.
Yeah, so we went to Salt Lake County. Yeah. But what the officer told me was, like, you're definitely sick. Like, she searched me. I had syringes. I had knives on me. I was a homeless woman out there, walking the streets at night, I used to sleep in those round playground slides.
Oh my God.
I used to sleep in those because I felt safe in them. I felt like nobody could see me. I'd have to get up before the school started the next day. I'd try to find like the kindergarten slides that like have the walls around them, around the kindergarten playground, the brick walls. Yeah. So it'd give me a little bit more closure. But eating out of trash can, sleeping in slides. And she's like, clearly you're sick. I had abscesses all over. I had track marks all over. I didn't have any teeth. Yeah. I was a full-blown addict for years. She said, clearly you're sick. If you want help, when you go into jail, ask for help. And because of Operation Rio Grande and so many people were going in, they held you so they could try to get you into a program. Yeah. The model of the operation was, let's get people off the street, into treatment, into help, into housing. It was very controversial. So there are people that think that, they tried to arrest their way out of the problem. And that's exactly what happened. Oh. With me, it saved my life. It gave me the opportunities I couldn't get before because I only had misdemeanor charges. Yeah. I didn't have any felony. I didn't have any drug charges. I had drug paraphernalia, retail theft, drug paraphernalia. I never even got possession because I used other pockets.
Right. This is where having like a bigger charge. Like I immediately got RDAP. I got a program.
I never got one.
That's so
never. I was never offered a program. I didn't have a felony charge. Okay. And I didn't have any drug charges. They were all like just shoplifting, traffic stuff, paraphernalia. I had a battery charge from my abusive relationship where I got charged and he didn't. But yeah, I never was able to get into a program. And so once she told me to go in and ask, I did that. I started writing a kite and I started asking for a program. And I remember getting assessed while I was in jail. And they're like, if you have an address, we'll release you to outpatient. And I sat there with the legal defender and I'm like, I can't go. I can use my dad's address where I was getting high all the time. Yeah. Or I can go show up to my dad's house anytime, day or night, and sleep for a day or two or withdrawal. I can ask my mom. She might say yes, but I don't know. And I remember trying to call my mom's house and she had just got rid of her landline. Finally, after 50 years, you know, and I didn't have the new cell phone number. So I'm like, I just told him I was homeless. I'm like, I'm homeless. Because I knew if I got out, I was going to run. Right. There was no way in hell I was going to stay. Right. I was barely withdrawing in jail. Right. I would not have stayed. I would have ran. I was looking forward to running. It's what I did. It's what I did for years is run.
And back then, they really didn't detox you in jail. You just had to suffer.
Yeah.
It was a lot of pain.
Yeah, that's how it was. It was like
Go
you can get
suffer
the
for a couple
Kool-Aid
weeks.
or whatever,
Yeah.
and they kept you in quarantine for 2 weeks just till they housed you. But it wasn't like nobody took care of you.
Yeah.
You can buy some sleepy pills off somebody for a donut or a honey bun, which I did to sleep for the first little while, you know, because when
you're coming off opiates, I went like 3 months without sleep.
It's hard. It's hard. But the good thing, it was my family. The minute I was in jail, they all showed up. You know, I had money on my books. My mom and dad put money on my books. They'd come and visit me. My children did not want to see me. My son was 18 at this time and just graduated high school and was like, again, you're in there again? Like, I've had enough of you. Like, again?
Sure.
I know I'm not going there to see you. No, I don't want to talk to you.
Right.
No, I'm tired of doing the same cycle with you, you know? And at this point, I had already lost my daughter and had no contact with her since she was in elementary school. Yeah, but my mom always showed up, always put money on my books. My dad always showed up, put money on my books. So I had commissary.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't have commissary. And so I had commissary every single week.
Yeah.
Because they never gave me money for drugs, but they gave me money when I was in jail.
Yeah.
And so that I could eat and get the things that I needed, and they showed up for me in there.
Yeah.
Which was like kind of like an aha moment, because when you're out there running and gunning, you think they don't even care.
Right.
We tell ourselves these things like, my kids are better without me. I might as well just stay away. My family don't want nothing to do with me. They don't care. Right. And all those things are false. But when you're in it, you believe it. And so that's what I told myself for years. That's what I believed. And then I go into jail, and all of a sudden I have food and hygiene, and my mom's there. She's not happy with me, but she's there.
It can be a safe place.
Yeah.
It's like where you finally can take a nap.
Eat a sandwich and take a nap.
Yeah.
I love those bologna sandwiches in jail.
I did not.
I did. But I grew up with a very poor mom. We had bologna all the time. So when I'm in jail and I'm not in a hurry to get out, I'm not asking anybody to bail me out, because I'm like, I'm going to try to get into a program. So they tell me I'm going to go into Odyssey House. And
Odyssey House is a pretty strict program.
Yeah, it's a pretty hard program.
Yeah, it is.
But this is the first, I did like court order treatment for a custody evaluation years before this, but it was like 1 day a week.
Yeah.
I got high the whole time. Right. I took pills the whole time. I knew it took 24 hours to 48 hours before I could pass the drug test. Right. Like, I knew how to get around
Odyssey
it.
is a hard program, but it's a good program.
It is a very good program. Yeah. For me, it was. So
yeah.
I get out of jail. They pick me up to go to Odyssey House, and they're like, what will keep you from running? Will methadone keep you from running? And I'm like, sign me up. Take me to the methadone clinic. So we went to the methadone clinic, and
people don't know what methadone is. I mean, maybe explain that a little.
Methadone is medically assisted treatment that I didn't take it, so I don't really know.
Oh, you didn't take it?
No, so we went to the methadone clinic, and they were closed.
Okay.
And
saved your life there. It's hard to come off methadone.
It was closed. But in my addict brain, I'm like, oh, I could get high the whole treatment, right? But they were closed.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I want you to think about it. It was a Friday. They were closed.
How long had you been clean at that point?
I had been clean probably 3 weeks.
So you were like kind of detox. You're coming out of it. I mean, it takes a while.
But I'm still in that very brain foggy, like iffy area. Yeah. I knew I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing.
But if you thought there's an easier, softer way, you're going to use it.
I signed up for it. I was going to do it. They were closed, so they took me to Odyssey House. And like the first couple of days, I'm like, maybe I don't want to do it. Maybe I don't want to do it. And people are like, I'm on Vivitrol. Don't do methadone. Do Vivitrol. So Monday comes, and I'm like, I don't want to do methadone. Like, I don't want to do methadone, right? Yeah. I don't want to. And they're like, are you sure? Because we can take you tomorrow. And then that night, when I was in Odyssey House, the staff came up to me, and they're like, you have to call your family. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, your brother, my brother who volunteered downtown, know somebody who works here. They've been calling every treatment center looking for you. All they know is that you got out of jail.
Yeah.
And they've been looking for you. They're downtown looking for you. They don't know where you are. They're worried about you. And they won't stop calling. So you need to call your family. And so I called my family, and my son answered. And he's like, I'm so proud of you. Please don't leave. And that's all it took for me. Yeah. I'm like, hey, no methadone. No methadone. Give me the Vivitrol. And that's all I needed to hear. And I did everything I had to do in that program. I ran a clean program.
That's
I held people accountable. I was like the gold star of the program.
My program, I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Whatever
I tried not to go into the drug court program, because everybody's like, don't do drug court. It's a trap. But I did the drug court program. I was on the gold list every single week. I just did everything I had to do. I never got in trouble in Odyssey House. I did everything I had to do. And then I transitioned from inpatient into outpatient and used Salt Lake County Sober Living pilot program voucher. So the county was rolling out a pilot program.
That's not Carl Bernardo.
It is Carl Bernardo. But because of Operation Rio Grande, there's all this funding. The mayor of the county was Ben McAdams at the time. And so they rolled out a sober living program where people can go from treatment into sober living as a step stool up, and they'd get 6 months free of housing through sober living.
Which is so important.
Oh my God.
Sober living, without sober living, and just so you understand, like if you're a person that's an addict and like you are, and you've been living in that, and they take you out of your home environment and put you in Odyssey House, if you just go back to the same environment, you're done. You're cooked. You have to have the step down.
Yep.
You have to have that sober living. And insurance doesn't cover sober living. And so getting a voucher is life-changing. And I see it all the time. People coming out of prison that can't get housing. It's like, please just give them a few months to get sober.
Yeah.
Help them get on their feet, you know?
I loved sober living. Like I went to a really good house. I loved the sober living program. I was the first one to use the Salt Lake County voucher from Operation Rio Grande. I was the first one to successfully complete a treatment program and use that voucher.
Wow.
And so as I'm going into drug court every week, there's this little blonde lady, Noella Sudbury, and she's like staring at me.
Noella.
And like, she's like, when I say staring at me, she's like, she's in the benches and she's just like, just watching. She's like, observing. I didn't know why she was observing
like
at the time.
Blonde lady, like tiny little girl.
And she just kept watching me. And then she pulled me aside and she's like, would you be interested in participating in a press release about the sober living voucher, about Operation Rio Grande, about being successful in drug court, about all the great things that you're doing? Would you be willing? And I'm like, no. I do not want to go on the news and tell everybody that I'm a heroin addict. I was a homeless heroin addict, that I lost my children. I barely had.
That's so painful.
Didn't have any teeth, so I made this tooth kit from Amazon that I would like try to make my own teeth out of. So, but they were like super, they just didn't
fake.
look good, you know? And I was like, no. And she kept asking me, she asked me, and I'm like, let me talk to my family.
Yeah.
So here I am, I'm going to talk to my son again and my family. And I said, how would you feel if I was on the news and I told everybody that I was a homeless heroin addict? I stole everything from any store I walked into, that I lost like all these things. And my son kind of chuckled and he goes, everybody we know knows that about you.
Leave it to the kids, right? He's like, well, my kids, it's like, we had to experience it. Talking about it is as hard as living
like
through
everybody we know knows that about you already. Like you did not do this under the rug. You did this out loud, violent. Yeah. Everybody knows that. He goes, I would be ashamed if you didn't do it. Oh. Like take the opportunity. Imagine how many people you can help, including yourself. You should do it. Oh, so I did it.
What a good kid.
So I said yes.
We have to have him on the podcast.
Oh, he's amazing. He's actually in the police academy. Or Salt Lake City PD. I thought it was going to be like 1 or 2 news stations. And so I said yes. And so I wake up that morning and there's every news station you can possibly think of, every newspaper, national news, because Operation Rio Grande got so much national media, that I walk upstairs and the whole entire front room is full of cameras and people and reporters and all the elected officials, the mayor of the county, the mayor of the city. And I thought the mayor of the county was a woman. I thought I was going to meet Jackie. And I had no idea. I was talking to Ben McAdams, who was the mayor, right? And I was speaking with him and the sober living person, but it was so intimidating. When my very first press conference, I cried through the whole thing. I had a paper and I cried through the whole thing, but I got through it and I didn't. All I could hear was click, 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 click from all the things. But that's when I met the mayor of the county. And from that day on, he followed my journey. He kept asking Noella, has she found a job yet? Has she found a job yet? And I couldn't find a job anywhere. Nobody would hire me because of my background. Everybody thought that I was still a thief because I had all these retail thefts. Nobody wants a thief to work for them.
Sure.
So they'd hire me and then they'd let me go. And he kept asking about it and asking about it. My mom kept saying, if he's going to keep asking me about it, why don't he just give you a job? If he cares that much, why don't he just give you a job? And I'm like, because they just needed a face for their operation, you know? They're not going to hire somebody like me. I'm not going to ask him for a job. They just needed me for the press conference. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, Noella calls me and she's like, there's an opening in the mayor's office as a front desk receptionist. Wow. And the mayor wants you to come and apply for it. And I was like, okay. Can you help me? I don't know how to do a resume. Like she asked me to do a resume and I had worked years before my addiction and I was on housing and Medicaid and food stamps and I had a job and I worked and I knew how to do things, but I had been in addiction and in the drug fog for so long that I forgot I knew how to do a resume. I didn't realize I remembered the computer skills that I used to have. And so when I sent her a resume, it was like a screenshot of like one of those resume templates that you do online. And she's like, okay, come inside the office. So she helped me do a resume, interviewed for the job. I went through like 3 or 4 different interviews and they asked me all these kind of questions. And then he called and hired me to be the constituent liaison for the the mayor's office, which is the front desk receptionist. But when I tell everybody I'm the front desk receptionist, they'd be like, no, you are the constituent liaison. Start using the right language.
Right.
Like, don't put yourself down here when you're up here. I started working in that office, and there was a couple of days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I was scared. The first day I didn't even show up. I didn't show up the first day, and I'm like, I have track marks all over me. I don't have any teeth. I know you hired me, but I'm not good enough for this position.
Yeah.
Like I'm not good enough for this position. To be in a political office, a government office, as the drug addict, in sober living, still in treatment.
It's crazy that you had those opportunities. It's really cool.
Yeah. It's so, my story should be more, everybody should have a story like this where an employer gives them a chance, right?
And what did that mean to you to have somebody believe in you like that? I feel like that's just like elevates a person when somebody gives them a chance.
The entire county mayor's office believed in me. And
so
after seeing them do it, I started believing in myself. So I would show up early, I would stay late, I would never sit there bored. Sit there bored. Right. Me and my boss would have a word of the day, and it would be like a county word that I didn't know that I would want to learn because I could hear people like talking about it, at the county. I took every opportunity that was put in front of me at that office, and I was their best employee. And in my exit speech, I said that because I did. I stayed early, went in early, stayed late, did everything I could do. I started sitting in the opioid task force meeting to take the minutes for the mayor's office, and then I was like looking around. And I'm like, nobody with lived experience is in these meetings. So I started speaking up. I started speaking up in the meetings. Then I became a member of the task force. I started advocating for expungement programs with Noella because she also worked for the county mayor's office. So we became colleagues. And so we'd start advocating for expungement, start speaking at recovery stuff. I was the recovery spokesperson from the office. So the mayor's office would send me to represent the mayor at different functions and speak for the mayor at the recovery related functions. And so I got a lot of like speaking skills, networking skills, and then time came to do my own expungement. And so I'm like the perfect candidate. I'm working at the county. They're doing these big, huge expungement days. There's an expungement navigator. So I'm getting the help that I need to do all the paperwork, but then the fees come. And it's like $2,600 for my expungement fees. And I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
I'm rebuilding my life from homelessness. I have a new baby. I just barely got my own apartment. And my son had a sign for me to get the apartment because nobody wanted to rent to me. Yeah. And I was putting the mayor down as my reference at these apartments. Nobody called him. They probably looked at my criminal record and was like, yeah, you don't know the mayor. There's no way you work there, Right. But I didn't have any savings, I had no savings at all.
Sure.
And so
it's hard for people to understand these types of barriers. Like I just talked to a guy that literally was writing, he'd gotten out of prison. His wife had been he had his kids. He'd been at the Odyssey program for 8 months, and he was trying to. He's like, I'm riding the train right now with my kids, waiting for the voucher. He doesn't have a driver's license. The fees for the drive. I mean, it's just hard for people to understand. It is hard.
And let me back it a little bit. Well, I was in Odyssey House. I was with my daughter's dad. I wasn't pregnant yet, and the whole time I was in there, I didn't really talk about him on purpose because I knew they would challenge that relationship because it was so abusive, it was so toxic, and I thought in my head, he's just going to follow suit. He's going to get out of prison, and he's going to follow suit. So I went to treatment. He went to prison.
He's going to get help too.
Yeah, and I felt like I loved him so deeply. Today, I don't know if I ever did, but in your addiction, love is so real. The toxicity is so real. The trauma bond,
yeah.
Yeah, and so I never talked about him. He got out of prison the same week that I got out of treatment. And so we hooked up, and I went over to his house, and he started getting high right away. And then I found out, when I was there, I was like, I don't want to do this. He's getting high. The drugs are there. The syringes are there. The heroin's there. And I was like, I felt disgusted. I'm like, I need to leave.
You're so lucky.
I don't want to do this.
So scary.
I don't want to do this. That could have been, I just didn't want to do it. And so I left. I stopped talking to him. And then I found out I was pregnant 6 weeks later. Wow. He's back in prison, and I'm pregnant in sober living with no job. This was before I got the job at the mayor's office. So when I got the job at the mayor's office, I was 12 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
So brand new pregnant. Didn't tell them because I wanted them to hire me.
Right.
I just thought that was important to say that. I thought,
because you have your little one.
Yeah. So then I have her, and then he's getting out of prison. We start talking again, and I'm living with my son. And I'm like, I want him to move in with us. And he's like, Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that, Mom? And I'm like, I have good boundaries. I've been proven I can make good decisions. I'm working at the mayor's office. I got a car. I got my license back. I I go to work every day, just had a baby. I'm like, I'm not on WIC, I'm not on food stamps, I'm not on housing anymore.
Yeah.
Because when I was working in the mayor's office, I came up on the housing list because I was in treatment and pregnant.
Yeah.
And I thought, quit the mayor's office. I grew up on public housing. I grew up on assistance. I grew up on all those things.
Right.
And to me, I was like, woohoo, stability is right here for me again, you know? And I thought, my son challenged me, like, you want to do something different or you want to do the same thing? And so I decided to let the housing go and keep the job.
And it's hard to get housing. Like, you've been on the list for a while.
Yeah.
And when it comes up.
Yeah, I had housing with
But that
my
was a
younger
choice
kids.
that you made to say, I mean.
Yeah, because I knew what housing was like. My younger kids, I raised them on Section 8 housing. I had it for years, you know, until I got into this abusive relationship and was forced to leave the housing behind. But I knew how great it was to have that
stability, but it's also
that back pedal,
right?
Because I hadn't, when I came up with the housing list, I hadn't seen the stability that I had yet. I didn't have an apartment yet. I was still in sober living. I was still taking public transit. So for me, I was like, that's the golden world. Right? Because I hadn't seen what I see now.
Right.
I didn't know what I know now then. And I decided to keep the job and pass up on the housing voucher because I made too much money.
Yeah.
They're like, you make too much money.
Yeah.
I never made that much money in my life. And it was $40,000 a year.
Right. But it was like,
it was $40,000 a year. Right. And so I got the housing, stood at the mayor's office. My son helped me get into an apartment. Luckily, the mayor gave me a job at such a good rate with full benefits. He covered me my entire pregnancy at 100% of my pay.
Shout out to the mayor.
Mayor Ben McAdam. He moved on to be congressman. Then he moved on to officiating my son's wedding.
Okay.
Like, he is a really good family friend of ours at this point. He gave my son his recommendation letter to enter into the Salt Lake City Police Academy. Like, he did not just want the face for Operation Rio Grande like we thought at the beginning. He really got to know me. He went out of his way in his office to get to know me. The office watched me go from, luckily, outpatient Odyssey House was right across the street from the mayor's office. So when I was done working, I could walk into the outpatient program and finish my program, which is really good because most people it doesn't line up like that.
Right.
Like,
so many
it doesn't
things
line up
for you.
Things lined up so well for me that I was never born religious. I never went to church, but I know there's something bigger than me.
Yeah.
Because of the way everything has worked out for me. So it's time to do my expungement. That's where I was at before I backpedaled. So it's time to do my expungement. I can't afford the fees. And I'm trying to apply for a credit card. I get denied. My credit's still horrible. You know, I'm still rebuilding my life. And I thought, well, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it. The mayor's office decided to hold a fundraiser. All the elected officials in the mayor's office, all my colleagues, and they paid for my expungement. That's the only reason why I have a clear record, because I wouldn't have been able to afford it because I made too much money for a fee waiver. I made too much money for WIC and food stamps and housing, but I was barely making enough to get groceries every week, to put gas in my car, to buy formula, to get diapers. It was almost easier being on the government benefits at that point in my life.
Sure.
But I couldn't afford it. But so they paid for my expungement, my whole entire expungement for me. They did a fundraiser. They handed me the cash. And I'm like, they just handed me almost $3,000 cash. When in my life has anybody ever trusted me to hand me cash before? Like, it was such a pivotal moment for me. Yeah. But then I get my record cleared, and Noella is moving on from the county. She's starting a nonprofit called Clean Slate Utah. She asked me to sit on the board. And so I was the only one with lived experience on the board for the first year. As she is the volunteer executive director, we're building it out, me and the board members, building out what the program is going to look like, the nonprofit organization, the Clean Slate law. And then Noella's like, I'm going to step down and I'm going to post the position. Would you be interested in applying? She's like, I can't promise it to you, but I think that you might be a good fit and you should apply. Right. And so I applied among, I think, like 40 or 50 other candidates, and I ended up getting the position. And at first I'm like, I don't know how to do this. What do you mean executive director? I had no idea. I was applying because I believed in myself at this point. I knew I could do good things. I knew I could make good decisions. And I had a great government job, which I loved. I loved the job. I went in there, did my work, good paycheck, good benefits. But nothing lit a fire under my butt like speaking did. Like going out and advocating and speaking and talking about my story and helping other people and working. I worked part-time at Odyssey House for a few years while I was in the mayor's office trying to save to buy a house. And that's the stuff that got me excited. Yeah. That's the stuff I wanted to do. And so I couldn't pass up the opportunity to do something that I've been loving. Right. And just keep the government job.
That had changed your life too, to have an expungement. So
it changed my life to have the expungement. So I got the position, and I'm like, I don't know how to be an executive director. Do you just lead people in an executive way? Like, what does that mean? Like, I had no idea, but I knew I could figure it out.
Yeah.
I knew I could figure it out. And man, I figured it out. I have figured it out.
And now you fly all over the country and you talk about expungement and you share your story and really advocate for people.
Yeah, I go all over the country sharing my story, and what I always share when I'm sharing my story is like when I was younger, I've always been this loud, spicy, spunky girl, and my mom used to always tell me that's gonna get you beat up or arrested, and it did. It got me beat up too many times I can count, and arrested a lot of times too.
Yeah.
But now I get to be the same person with the loud, spunky mouth that just gets to advocate for things that I really am passionate about and believe in. And so I get to go around nationwide and share my story. I have a documentary on Amazon Prime called Coming Clean. It's about the opioid epidemic and people in recovery teaming up with political leaders like Congressman Ben McAdams. He's in it with me.
Very cool.
And try to make change and bring awareness around the opioid epidemic.
Right.
I've done some pretty cool things, some really pretty cool things. I mean, I live a life today that I never dreamed of. I knew when I was sitting in the park that I could do better than that and I could be better than that. But I had no idea that the life that I live today, it could be this good. It could be this good.
What's the restoration been like with your children? And I ask that because I remember going to the county jail for the first time, and there was a girl in there, and she told me, she said, "Oh, are your kids okay? Because I have a husband that's taking care of my kids. I'm going to only be there for a week, you know." And she goes, "Oh, I lost my kids a long time ago." And I just started to cry, and I said, "But what do you have to fight for?" And she goes, "I'm fighting to become somebody that they will be proud of someday when they find me." And I've thought the restoration that we have with our children has been the most beautiful part.
Yeah.
You know, and I watch you with your little girl, so it's like.
Well, I have 3 kids. Isaiah, he is my oldest, Isaiah. She's 26. And then I have a daughter named Anna Marie. She's 24. And then I have my little one. And so remember earlier in my story, I said I forgot to pick up my daughter from school. I have not spoke to her since then. Okay. So she doesn't want anything to do with me, and rightfully so. I mean, I drug her through the mud. She's entitled to feel all the feelings that she feels towards me.
Sure.
And I think that time will come. I don't know when that time will come.
Right.
But I do know that the reason I started doing the press conferences was because I was hoping she'd see it on the TV. That's why I started saying yes to everything. Like, oh, you don't want to talk to me. You don't want to answer the phone. They want nothing to do with me. I'm going to show up on their TV screen. And I did. I've been on the news more times than anybody can count. And that's one of the main reasons why I started to, is because I wanted to, I used my drugs loudly. I was in my abuse loudly. My whole life I've been loud. I wanted to recover out loud too. It was important to me. And so, we still have no contact. We haven't had any contact since she was in elementary school. But I think it will come.
You've become the person that when she finds you, she'll be proud of.
Yeah, like I send cards. I try to reach out still, not very often because...
You want to respect her boundaries.
I want to respect her boundaries. When I was in my addiction, I was calling all the time. I was doing all this stupid stuff, showing up at her school with like presents and things that I thought that were right in the moment. But looking back, I'm like, no wonder. Yeah. No wonder. Like, I didn't leave her alone. And so I'm respecting her boundaries, respecting... that she doesn't want anything to do with me right now. Hopefully that day will come. And when that day does come, she's not even going to know who I am. I'm somebody completely different. Right. 100% different. I'm not what she remembered. And I hope that I show all of my children that you're not the mistake she made. My relationship with my son is amazing. We just went to Disney on Ice today.
I love that so much.
And and I have a 7-year-old that just turned 7. She is just as spicy.
She is a spicy little girl.
Spunky and as loud as I am. And I look at her and think, that's who I would have been had I not had all the trauma and abuse in my life. Yeah. Starting as a little kid. Like, I can't wait to see what she's going to grow up to be. She walks around with microphones and she's like, "My name is Destiny Garcia and I'm in long-term recovery." And like, she tries to like mimic me, you know, and she's at the age now where I can start taking her to things, and she does events and stuff with me. So hopefully one day all of my children will be together again and I'll be able to be with all of them. Yeah. Until that time comes, I have to continue just being the best version of me.
Absolutely.
My oldest daughter is a lot like me. Yeah. And so I, at that age, knew everything.
Right. Oh, and girls too. I mean, I've been through this, right? I have a bunch of kids, 5 children and a child I placed for adoption. And my daughters, it's different for. The boys, they forgive us, but the girls, I don't know. And it's taken time. My oldest daughter, I asked her to write me a letter telling me everything I did to hurt her while I was in prison. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. The letter came and it was multiple pages, and I let someone else read it before I did because I was just afraid.
Yeah.
And she goes, it's not that bad. It's going to hurt me so deeply. But what it did is it gave her a voice. It gave her the ability to tell me. And it's really helped us connect. My other daughter, when I came home, she was 17, and she's like, you aren't my mother. You didn't raise me. And I had to be so patient. I had to be so patient. And we've made all kinds of progress. Love you, Sadie. I'm so proud of you. But it was super hard. And it just takes time. It took a long time.
Forgiveness takes time. And then you're not perfect, right? Like my son has forgiven me and he's welcomed me back, and he has provided everything that he can to help me along the way. Like when I moved out of sober living, I had trash bags of clothes. Yeah. He furnished the whole entire house. And then when he left on his mission, he left everything. And then when he moved, he left everything. Like he has done everything that he can in his power to help me, as long as I'm doing the right thing, right? But even with that being said, there has been mistakes that I have made in my recovery where I didn't put him at the forefront of my decisions that I regret now. Like just because I'm clean and sober and I've changed my life does not mean that I know how to parent 100% correctly. I've still made mistakes. We've still argued. We've still fought. I've still hurt him in ways that I didn't plan to hurt him. It doesn't take all that away.
Well,
but
every parent does that, right? Yeah. Whether you were a drug addict or not, we all make mistakes. Yeah. And I think
that's what I was trying to say. Like I still make those parenting mistakes.
As no parent, because we love our kids so deeply. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you made. You love them. And I think that the most painful thing for a parent to admit is that I made a mistake. And we all do. So it's like, just get that on the table right now. I work with kids who have been in and out of foster care and struggled so much. And I work with parents that are trying to raise those kids and they still make mistakes. Yeah. And it's really hard for them to say, I just made a mistake. I'm sorry.
It is hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to say sorry. It's hard to say I messed up, because you did all this trauma to them in your past and all this abuse and trauma in the past. And now you're not living that way, but you still make mistakes, Right. And so, but our relationship is really good. So he's cool. Married, and his relationship with Brooklyn is amazing.
So cool.
It's so cute to see them together because when I told him I was pregnant, I called him and I'm like, I have something to tell you. And I was in sober living. He's like, let me walk out.
Oh.
And he thought I was going to say I relapsed. And I said, I'm pregnant. And he goes, that's it? He's like, don't worry, Mom. We'll get through it, And he has really been... He's been a father figure in a way, like this strong man in Brooklyn's life because her dad is in prison and he's not around and he's still in his addiction. But he has become somebody that Brooklyn is proud of, that Brooklyn runs to, that Brooklyn is comfortable with and is a good role model for her. Yeah. And their relationship I just love watching them together, man.
So cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
Oh, so what would you say to someone who is struggling the way you were struggling, like in the thick of that? Because I felt so hopeless. I could not see the beauty on the other side of my pain. Like, what do you say to somebody that's in the thick of their addiction, or a parent that's got a kid, somebody that they love, or a kid that's got a parent? Yeah. What do you say?
Somebody in their addiction, I would tell them that they matter. Is because I sat there for lots of years thinking that my kids were better off without me and nobody loved me, but I was wrong. I would tell somebody that they matter, and that they are loved and their life is worth living. Yeah. Even if it is just to the next day, just get to the next day. Yeah. That's what I had to tell myself in Odyssey House. They're like, get to your pillow. I'm like, I'm just trying to get to lunch. And then I'll figure out how I'm going to get to dinner. To get to the very next day in the very beginning was too hard for me. Yeah. It was too hard for me because the abuse is addicting, the toxicity is addicting, it was so hard for me at the beginning. So
climbing out of all that is hard to even describe.
Yeah, and it's hard. I have siblings. I just lost a sibling last year because of substance abuse. Our youngest sibling, my youngest sister, and then I have another sibling that's just struggling at the moment, and it's hard because you want to love them so much, and I do. I love them as much as I can, and I do as much as I can without risking my own sobriety, right, and without dropping my boundaries too much, because I have to have the boundaries to keep myself safe and to keep everything that I work so hard to build, and to keep my home my peace. My home is my peace. Yeah, and so I had to have boundaries around that, and so sometimes it's hard to have to make them leave or to not be able to let them stay, but I can't do that.
Right. What's your relationship like with your parents now?
My dad passed away a few years ago, but he was proud of me. My dad got help for his domestic violence issues, and he got sober at like the age of 39, 40. So when he died, he was really into the church. And
Okay.
I remember when I graduated Odyssey House, and we're walking up the stairs. And when I graduated, everywhere I go, it seems like there's a camera crew. They were filming for the documentary. There was all these cameras, and like he pulled me aside, and he was just bawling. And he's like, God is working through you. God is working through you. Look at everything you're doing. And I'm so proud of you. He changed, and I believe people can change because my dad was abusive most of our lives to his wives, never to us, never to the children, but to his wives. Not his wife.
Yeah.
Not his wives.
He was married more than once.
He was married more than
to
once.
your mother,
Yeah.
he was abusive, and then he was abusive.
Yeah. But he got help, and he got sober, and they ended up living a pretty good life in the end. And my mom is my biggest supporter. We bicker. She'd come visit me at Odyssey House every single week without fail, and sometimes we'd fight.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd argue, but she showed up for me. She continues to show up for me. I talk to my mom every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
So cool.
And I went years sometimes without talking to her because we didn't get along. We were just like each other, but I talked to my mom every single day. I actually moved to Magna to be close to my mom.
Yeah.
So I'm like 1 or 2 lights away.
Okay.
But we see my mom all the time, and our relationship is really good.
It
is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
And she's proud of me. They're proud of me,
Love that. People ask me this question. I'm like, I don't know what comes next. I don't even know. I don't know. I just think I'm really happy, and the next step comes next, and the next step.
Yeah, I think for me, the next step is clearing everybody's records that I can. It's important for me to keep doing the work that I'm doing because my story is so unique, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Employers should be hiring people with records because people with records show up.
Yeah.
Because they don't get those opportunities, right? And so it's so important to change the stigma around having a criminal record and helping people get rid of those barriers to try to get better housing opportunities and become financially stable and volunteer in their kids' school and all those things that I went through. And now that I had barriers from, and now I see the other side. I am lucky enough to have hit those barriers, seen what it's like, overcome them, and be on the other side. A lot of people are still hitting the barriers. And so for me, what's next is to try to help everybody clear their records that I can.
Love that. If anyone can, you will.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for driving all the way out.
Yeah, of course.
On the podcast. You're amazing.
Thank you.
There. And your story, I felt a lot of hope, a lot of strength, and just some kind of crazy spirit. You must have a really strong spirit because as I'm listening to you, I'm just like, wow, you are an incredible woman.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to keep using this loud mouth of mine.
All right, you keep doing it. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, and come back next time on the Living Louder podcast.